Okay, we'll get started. Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining today's presentation on video surveillance and security for financial institutions. Looks like we've got banks and credit unions from all across the region on the call today, so we're definitely going to do our best to make this as informative and interesting as possible. My name is Micah Carlson, and I'm with Dakota Security Systems. And in a moment here, we'll be handing the call off to Ali from March Networks. He's going to be talking specifically about high-definition video surveillance and some really exciting security applications that March Networks has designed specifically for the financial environment. So we'll get started with the few house cleaning items we have for the presentation today. First, of course, is the $100 Amazon gift card. So we're going to do something a little different with the presentation today, and hopefully, again, to make it a little more interesting for everyone. And what that is at the conclusion of the webinar, and we expect it definitely to last less than an hour. We won't take up too much of your time. But at the conclusion of the webinar, we'll ask a very easy trivia question from the topics that we covered today. And then the first person to respond with the correct answer into the chat portion or the question portion of the presentation will be the winner of the gift card. So whatever you got to do, take notes, just pay attention, and of course you'll have to be quick at the end there after the question, and whoever provides the correct answer first will be the winner. But in the meantime, of course, if you have any questions about anything you see during the presentation, please don't hesitate to type in your question and we'll definitely get it answered. So let's get started then. We'll just get into an introduction to Dakota Security real fast. I mean, most of you are current clients of Dakota Security, which of course we greatly appreciate. But if you're not familiar with who we are and what we do, we'll just do a brief introduction. So Dakota Security has been in business for over 35 years, and we attribute the long-term success of our company to our client commitment, which is to protect your people and property. You know, for us, really nothing less will do. Now, we actually have a unique approach in that we deliver security in a systematic way, and we call that the steps to security. And we have the steps to security displayed here with our triangle on the screen, and it actually outlines the Dakota Security mission, which is to understand your security problems, solve them, and then finally support the solution. So when it comes to protecting your people and property, and delivering really the steps to security, in no other vertical does Dakota Security perform better, or do we have more experience than in the financial vertical. This is where the company got its start, and we definitely feel we have a great understanding of the financial industry and the unique security challenges that you face. So what exactly does Dakota Security provide to banks and credit unions to solve their security problems? Well, first, we install and support physical security for your branches, including all your safes, safety deposit boxes, vaults, drive-up equipment, and really anything within the branch that has a lock on it. Dakota Security can install and service and support that product through life. And then, of course, beyond physical security, we also install and support the electronic security systems, which include burglar alarms, keyless access control, and video surveillance, which is the topic of the call today. So the question may be is, why video surveillance and why now? But as you may have seen, maybe from Dakota Security or perhaps from another source, is that Microsoft has ended most all support for the Windows XP operating system. So even though Windows XP is an expired operating system, it still has a very large segment of the installed video surveillance systems that are still in use today. So, I mean, really, what does it mean, and why does it matter to everyone? You know, really, the important part is that Microsoft is no longer sending out service packs, any updates for the software, and really, most importantly, they're not doing any critical security patches which protect the system from any outside attack. So what that means is that Windows XP is, and really the systems that are running it, you know, which we're talking about again, the critical video surveillance system, it leaves these vulnerable to harmful viruses, spyware, and malicious software attacks. So what can be done about it? What can be done about expired security? Well, thankfully, Dakota Security has a solution to this vulnerable and expired security, and that's why we've partnered with March Networks. So at this point, we'll just hand the call off to Ali. He's going to discuss the secure operating system that March Networks uses, which is actually an alternative to Windows XP. And Ali will also discuss some really exciting security features, which are, again, specifically designed for the financial market, and it can really help improve your operations and the security of your branches. And then finally, we'll conclude with a limited time promotion, which we have in place that allows you to trade in expired Windows XP security for video surveillance. So, Ali, can you take it away?
Yeah, thanks, Micah. So, hi everyone. Thanks again for joining. Today we're talking about security and fraud solutions for financial institutions. As Micah mentioned, my name is Ali, and I'm the software product manager at March Networks for fraud solutions. As Micah mentioned, Micah, are you hearing an echo on my end?
No, let me turn mine down, though. That might be the problem. Go ahead.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, that's better. So as Micah mentioned, your lines are muted, but please feel free to use that chat window to post any questions, and we'll do our best to answer them all at the end. So getting started, if you look on this slide, for those of you who are not familiar with March Networks, we've been around since around 2000, and we're headquartered in Ottawa, Canada. Our primary focus is North America. It's where we do the majority of our work. However, we are a global company with offices around the world. So the chart that you're seeing in front of you, and something we're pretty proud of, you can find March systems in over 450 financial institutions in 70 different countries around the world. And basically, if you add up all of the branches that our equipment's installed in, that's more than 120,000 installations. And one of those is the largest recorder deployment in the world. So later I'm going to talk about enterprise solutions, and really that comes from just, kind of our global footprint and our work with such large financial institutions. And as you can see in the center of the chart, it's because of all those stats that I just mentioned that IMS actually ranked March Networks #1 in banking in 2011. From the numbers shown, we can basically see that March is the preferred choice of small and large institutes across the Americas. For example, you can find March systems in all 8,000 branches at JP Morgan Chase, but you can also find us in 10 branch credit unions. And what we find that enterprise customers really love about the system is the central management. And I'm going to get into that later. But basically, the central management provides you with some incredibly useful tools so that you can push out mass software updates, you can manage all of your users from one location, and you can retrieve and manage video across thousands of recorders. Whereas some of the smaller to medium institutes, what we find that they like is just having a reliable box that works. It's there when they need it, and they don't have to pick up the phone all the time to call for support because of problems with the unit. So why are financial institutions choosing March? And something you should know about March Networks is that, fraud solutions and financial solutions is not just one of the things that we do. It's actually our primary goal. Creating the best products for your branches, ATMs, large and small institutes, that's something we've been focused on doing for years. Our solutions cover all aspects of video surveillance. So you can get cameras, video analytics, various recorders, which is what we're going to talk about a lot today. And I mentioned central management briefly. So as we go over all of these, kind of the takeaway is that you can pick and choose any of these great pieces of the puzzle that you want and put together a solution that's perfect for you. So the first thing that I want to get into is the recording devices. I think that the recorder is kind of the key piece of the system. The cameras are plugged into it, streaming video. The central server is going to manage that recorder for you. And then all of the client software tools that you use on a day-to-day basis, are interacting with that recorder. So it's kind of the heart of the entire system. And I'm actually a software guy, so I don't usually get excited about hardware, but there's a couple things that I really, really love about our boxes that I want to go over today. So for me, the number one thing is that this is not a DVR. It's actually a hybrid NVR, or network video recorder. And all that means to you is that a single box can record all of my existing analog cameras today, and it can upgrade to incorporate IP cameras. So we provide different variations of the unit. So let's say I pick an 8-channel analog box. That 8-channel analog box can also support IP cameras as you start to swap out your analog cameras. So I like to think of this as kind of the future-proof box for you, so that I don't have to buy a new DVR today and then in the future switch over to IP once there are no more analog cameras. That box is going to get me through the next 10 years as I make that transition to IP. So the second thing I wanted to talk about is just kind of the inside of the box a little bit and how flexible the storage solutions are. So if we take a look at that picture, there's a couple things that stand out. And the first thing is that the box isn't cluttered at all. It's actually really easy to get access to the parts that are inside the unit, and almost everything in the box is replaceable on site. So all that means is that if any piece of that box fails, a technician can show up and quickly repair the unit. They just pull out the bad piece, put in a new one, and they're good to go. And that's just going to result in much shorter downtimes. So none of this, one piece fails, so I have to send my box away, or I have to wait 2 weeks for a new part. We can just go in and quickly repair the unit. So the next thing is the hard drives. Because hard drives are one of those things that do fail a little bit more often than the rest of the components, we wanted to make it really, really easy to swap those out. So if you look at just below the hard drive where the connector cable is, there's actually a large thumb screw there. So we've made it so easy to replace these units, or if you wanted to upgrade your storage later, you can just go in, unscrew that screw with your thumb, and pop in a new hard drive. We really wanted to make it that easy. The other thing that's great is we didn't actually put our operating system on the hard drive. So typically with a Windows-based box, and your computer at home would have the same situation, the operating system is on the same hard drive as all your data. So if my hard drive fails, I lose all of my data and I lose the operating system. What we've done is we put the operating system right on the boards in that unit, and then only your video data is stored on the hard drive. So the benefit there is that if I lose a hard drive, hopefully I've mirrored that data via RAID, so that all I do is I go and I swap out that hard drive, I put in a new one, the data mirroring picks up again, and I didn't lose my operating system. That's a very, very short downtime, even if a hard drive fails. So I really love that design. And a lot of the financial institutes using this really love it when their service bills don't have hours and hours of reconfiguration for minor failures. So continuing on the theme of easy maintenance, I did want to mention our docking station briefly. So we all know faster maintenance means smaller service bills. And the recorder seen in this picture comes with a docking station. So what that means is that all of the cable connections, so if you imagine all of the cameras at your branch, the ATM vestibule, everywhere, all of those cables typically would come up and they would connect directly to the back of the recording device. What that means is that if that recording device fails, now I have to go and I have to disconnect my 16 cameras. I have to disconnect the power, the internet connection, everything. Then I swap out the box. What we've done with the docking station is we've made it so that all of the connectors actually connect to a dock, and the recorder just slides in and out. So if I need to take care or service that recorder, I can just yank it out, replace a part, I can pop it back in, and I'm fully functional. So I was talking to a client one time, and he described this one recording device that he was using. and it actually had 18 screws just to take off the case to the box. And when I hear things like that, I have to think that whoever designed a box with 18 screws just to take off the lid has never had to service a box or maintain a unit in their entire life. So our boxes actually just have 3 screws on top. So after you take 3 screws off, you have access to the box. And I've already showed you how easy it is to replace parts that are inside the box. So we really wanted to design this unit to make it easy to service, just because we want the downtime to be as short as possible and quick to repair. That's the main goal there.
Yeah, Allie, if I may, that's a great point. I mean, in talking to both our installation and service technicians, really connecting the cameras to the back of the recording device is probably one of the more laborious and difficult tasks, just because of the space and you're crawling behind your rack or whatever. So this design, again, really saves on time for both installation and service, and really in the long term it costs the owner of the device, the bank branches, it costs them a lot less money to maintain and service that device. So it really is a smart design, and there's not any other really manufacturer in the industry that I'm aware of that has that type of setup. So it's a pretty innovative design there. So
thanks, Micah. Okay, so we've taken a good look at the recording device itself. Now I want to switch gears and talk about the software that you're going to get with that great box. So March has 5 user interfaces for the different uses that you would require out of the system. So we're going to provide you with administrative software, live viewing, some powerful investigation software, and I'm going to talk in more detail about that. And then after you've done your investigation, so I found the video, I found the events that I'm interested in, we actually also provide an evidence management tool so that you can start adding notes to video clips. And then once you've built an entire case and you have all your evidence, you can export that, and we're providing you with a standalone player that you can give to law enforcement so they can review the video and the notes side by side. So that's all of the tools kind of at a 30,000-foot level, but moving on, I'm just going to talk about centralized management and then some great investigation tools. So with centralized management, this is kind of speaking to the institute that has, what if you have 50 recorders or 100 recorders or 1,000 recorders? Then it becomes a large task when, you would go back to Dakota and ask for a new feature, and then I have to upgrade 1,000 boxes with that new feature. So that's where we started to design some of our great central management tools. So with these tools, you can start performing, mass software updates. So I just take the new version of the software and I push it out to all the recorders. And it's going to notify me if an update was successful or if there was a problem. And if there's a problem, I can attempt again or do it locally. You don't find that with a normal, just kind of off-the-shelf recorder. Something else that's really great about central management is controlling all of the user access to the system. So let's say I have investigators and I've assigned them regions of the country or local regions, and I want to assign 10 branches to somebody. It's very easy to do the user management when you have great central management tools like this. I can control how every single person in the system interacts, their access to the video data, their access to locations, and those are the great central management user tools. The other thing, and this is a huge benefit, is to just get a global health of the entire system, regardless of how many recorders you have. And the largest installation we have, I mentioned, is actually 30,000 recorders. And it would be a nightmare to manage 30,000 recorders if you couldn't get real-time health updates to make sure that every recorder, every camera is working, every camera is recording. Because I don't want to have a situation where there's an incident and then I come in the morning, and I found out that camera was never recording, was never installed properly. So, and if it's interesting, it's possible for, if you don't want to have to manage monitoring the health of the system and all of that, you can actually contact Dakota, and it's possible to offer that as a service where all of your equipment's monitored off-site and you're notified if there's any problems. So that's central management, and we really love the way that that's implemented, and we hope you will too. So moving on to some of the great investigation tools that I mentioned, I'm going to be talking a lot about what we call Investigator, and that's what your financial fraud investigators are going to be using. So each of the software tools I mentioned are kind of a day-to-day operation by the different users. This is your financial investigator tool. So the software that you're looking at here basically lets you drill down very quickly to any video data, to any event data that's stored in the system. And the way that we let you navigate through, how do I find which recorder or which camera the video is stored on when there's an incident. So we've applied different filters and different search methods to let you find video. So if I have a break-in at 2 in the morning, or let's say there's a window smashed, there's graffiti on the wall, how am I going to drill down to find out the exact time that happened? Because I need to respond quickly to that. We've done two things basically. So we've given a timeline which shows you all of the motion in front of a camera. So let's say I have an outdoor camera or a front door camera, and I look at my timeline to see when there's been motion overnight. So I just select the last 12 hours, and I see that there's a spike in activity around 2 in the morning. I can actually click right on the timeline wherever there's an activity spike, and I'm going to jump right to that event data. I'm going to pull up the video from all the cameras at that time, and I can just start playing the video and watch what happened. So we think that's a great tool for quickly finding what's going on. The other aspect, and this is similar, is we're going to provide some thumbnail snippets. So you're going to have 7 thumbnails spread across whatever timeline you select. So same situation, there's a window broken. It happened last night. I'm not sure when. I'm going to go on the timeline. I'm going to select the last 12 hours, and I'll get 7 thumbnails that are going to show me, starting from the beginning to end and spread out evenly what happened last night. So I can see that between thumbnail 3 and 4, in one the window's fine, and in the next one the window's smashed. So what I'm going to do is select those 2 thumbnails, and I'm going to refine my search to drill down, and I can find the exact point that something went wrong. So that's just 2 of the great searching tools that we have in our investigator tool, and we think they're fantastic. If you look in that snapshot there, there's also room for some transaction data, which I'll get into, and you can even start adding notes once you're doing your investigation there. So moving on, I did want to talk about some transaction integration. We typically call this financial transaction investigation, and what's going to happen basically is there's 2 ways to do transaction integration. Integrating video and text is nothing new, and you may have heard about it before, but we felt that traditional methods were greatly lacking. So the local method of integrating with an ATM is basically I connect directly to the ATM, I have data coming from an ATM or a teller workstation, and that goes into the DVR at the site. We call that local integration because the data is stored locally on the recorder. The problem that March had with this model is that if an incident happens and I need to perform an investigation, but I don't know the exact time, the exact site, the location, let's say the police are looking for a suspect and they want to know, and they know the card number that he's using, but I don't know where he went. What's going to happen is I have to connect to Site 1. I have to pull up the transaction data at Site 1. I have to pull up the video data at that site. Then I do a search. And if he's not there, then I have to go to Site 2 and Site 3 and Site 4 and so on. So that we felt was a very cumbersome way and a slower way of doing investigation. So what we've done is we implemented what we call a central transaction model, where we actually interface directly with the ATM data server and the teller data servers. And the way that that works is IT loves this because we can put our server behind the firewall at the financial institute. The banking servers, so the ATM and the teller data servers, they get to choose what data they want to push out. It's very easy to control that with databases. So you just basically do a data dump to us. Now we have all of the transaction data. Our recorders know when all of the video was recorded, so we go out and we cross-reference everything for you automatically. So that way, when there's an incident, when anything happens, or let's just say I have a customer complaint and they say, I didn't use my card at this time, I didn't withdraw that $100 fund, I can just do a search on that card number and it's going to pull up all of the branches, all of the ATMs that that card was used at. So we really think that the central search model, and that just means having all the data in one place and being able to search across all your branches, we really think that that's the fastest, easiest way to use transaction searching. Sorry, I got ahead of myself there. So the last thing, and just kind of wrap things up, I just wanted to mention that, I mentioned a couple of the search tools and the thumbnails, the histogram, and also the financial transaction integration. Kind of my tagline for that product is that you can reduce your investigation from hours to minutes. And we've proven that with a number of large clients. The biggest one, or the biggest decrease I've seen is with one client where their average investigation time was 4 hours, and they actually reduced that to 14 minutes. And that's over a 90% reduction in effort. Now what that means is that those investigators are now free in the rest of that 90% chunk of time to go after more fraud and to find more problems in the system. And we think that that's just a win for everybody. So for more information on FTI, you can contact your Dakota rep, and we can just move on. There's a couple more things I want to cover. So I talked about the FTI solution. There's a further add-on which we call Searchlight. And basically, Searchlight is a software solution. And what we do is we combine analytics and transaction data. And we can provide some new, what I think are some pretty innovative ways to search for suspicious behavior. So, for example, if a person walks up to an ATM, they loiter there for a certain period of time, and they don't make any transactions, that person actually may be setting up an ATM skimming device. The way that we can detect that is we use video analytics to know if the person is there, and then we use the transaction data to say, the analytics told me someone's standing there, but I don't have any transaction data at that time. I'm going to flag that for later investigation. The other flip side of the coin there is when cash harvesters or fraudsters come back and they use someone else's card or multiple cards, we can detect that one person walked up to an ATM and they actually used 4 cards and withdrew $300 over each card. And we provide all of that search capability and those alerting tools over to your investigators. And we help configure that. So if you want to be alerted when somebody uses 3 cards and each transaction is over $100, we can set up a rule notification for that. So that's Searchlight in a nutshell. Some of the other cool search features that we're starting to add is face detection. So let's say law enforcement comes and they say, I want to see all the faces that used your ATM between 7 and 8 o'clock. We can do that. Or we're looking for a guy in a green shirt. You can do a color detection search. So you can say, I want to see all the green at my ATM in the last 24 hours. Or let's say they're looking for a silver car. You can say, show me all the silver cars in the last 24 hours at my drive-thru. So that's some of the innovative search that we're starting to add to build up the Searchlight product. And we really think that it's leading the industry for investigation search tools.
Well, Ali, real quick before we move on, I mean, if we're, seeing FTI and then Searchlight in a PowerPoint format, it's impressive, but, it's kind of hard to see the actual, product in use. Is that something that, do you guys do demos on this stuff, or how does that work?
Yeah, it's fairly straightforward actually. Because Searchlight is a web-based product, we have a secure connection up to our servers in here where we have a demo set up. So if you contact your Dakota rep, he can actually just sit down with you, pull up a web page, and you can walk through and actually do your own searches, play around with it. You can do the face search, you can do the color search, you can see the skimming detection events. There's a lot of cool features in there, and really, hands-on, seeing is believing. So I'm glad you asked that, Micah.
Perfect, thanks.
So again, I just wanted to switch gears. So we talked about the recorder itself and then some of those great investigation tools. But it's really worth mentioning that, if you have poor quality cameras, or if the cameras are set up in ways that the image quality just isn't there, there's no way to fix that in the recorder. The recorder doesn't magically fix a bad camera image, and our investigation software is great for finding incidents, but it doesn't fix bad quality video. And that's why March Networks provides what we think are the best banking and financial institute cameras. They're IP cameras, they're HD resolution, and the most important thing is that they're wide dynamic range. So you're going to see a lot of cameras out there. Just go to any show, go to any website. Everybody seems to be offering an HD camera. But if you walk into Best Buy, why is it that you can buy a 10 megapixel camera for $100 or you can buy a 10 megapixel camera for $1,000? And it's because of the quality of the image that you're going to get out of that camera. So that's why we started building cameras that were tailored specifically to financial institutes. So the image that you see on this slide here, you can see how basically, I have lots of different light sources. There's an overhead light in the room, and then there's some big light coming in through the windows from the sun. And you look at the bottom image, and that's taken from two different cameras that are side by side. So exact same time, the cameras are side by side. One of those cameras has no WDR, and then the March camera has the wide dynamic range. And all wide dynamic range means is that the camera is able to use multiple light sources just to get you the best image possible. With your typical camera, it just tries its best. It picks one light source and says, I'm going to make the image this bright or this dark based on the amount of light in the frame. With a March camera, with the wide dynamic range, you're going to get the best image at your doorways, in your ATM vestibules, anywhere where you have a lot of different light sources. And if we move on, you can see that there's 4 cameras that I'm showing here, and Michael will go into the program later. But that line of IP cameras, the top 3 of those all come with the WDR. What we've done is we built 3 what we think are some of the best financial institute cameras. They're IP cameras with the full resolution, full frame rate. You can get up to 3 megapixels at 20 frames per second and absolutely get that WDR, the wide dynamic range. Then we also produced that, fit in the palm of your hand nano dome, and that's for some more discrete surveillance when you need a smaller camera for a smaller area. You're still going to get the full HD resolution, but we've scaled back some of the features, and that one does not come with WDR. So definitely we think we have an option for everybody out there. And just while we're on this slide, it's worth mentioning that we also provide video analytics. Some of the analytics I mentioned is how we do ATM detection. It's how we do loitering detection in and around your branches. And if I just skip ahead, so I covered a lot of material in a short period of time. I really appreciate everyone sitting through. Just to kind of recap everything, I kind of boiled it down to the 4 points that I think are key about the system. So the number one, because it's a Linux-based recorder, that means you're going to have 0 headaches when it comes to stability and security. Linux is just, rock-solid reliability and also rock-solid security. So I'm never going to have to worry about hackers. I'm never going to have to worry about the spyware, the malware. None of those problems. It really is a box that you can just install, plug in, and you're never going to have to worry about it again. The second thing that I love about that box is because it's a hybrid recorder, that means I'm going to save on having to upgrade my analog cameras or rip out any of my analog cabling. So I leverage all of my analog cameras today, and I can start adding some great IP HD resolution cameras, so like the ones we just talked about. The third thing I wanted to mention is I talked about enterprise management. I really think those enterprise tools are nothing short of amazing. We learned a lot managing 30,000 locations, and that's just for one customer, and then 8,000 locations for JPMC. So just to kind of recap what is enterprise management, that's going to be your centralized user management, mass software updates, and the global health monitoring. And really all of those things combined, that just means you're going to save countless hours in maintenance. For some of our larger customers, like the 8,000 branches, you know, you can't even count the number of hours that would have been spent managing 8,000 units. And the last thing that I went through in a lot of detail is our amazing investigation tools. I really think that a strong recorder would be nothing without some great tools to actually get the video off of it and to do investigations. So we really think March is leading the world with the quality of the investigation tools. So again, thanks everyone for taking the time today. I'll pass it back to Micah for details on how you can get some more information on these products. Micah?
Okay, Ellie, thanks a lot. So does anybody have any questions first off about any of the information that was covered by Ellie? I know it was a lot of stuff and maybe got a little technical there, but you know, I mean, it's important stuff. So I guess real quick, Ellie, before we move on, I know we talked a lot about the, you know, really March's experience in the financial world. Do you guys have any, you know, case studies or maybe some real world examples of you know, how this has been deployed for other institutions?
Yeah, definitely. So you could contact your Dakota rep, or you can go on the March website, but the two that come to mind for me are Fifth Third Bank and Synovus. But there's other case studies and white papers that can be found on the website.
Okay, sounds good. So, oops, we'll move on. Again, as we mentioned at the top of the presentation, Dakota Security and March Networks have partnered together on what we're calling a limited time trade-in offer. And really what that is all the stuff we talked about today, specifically the NVRs. We're offering a deep pricing discount on all those hybrid and network video recorders from March Networks. And that's part of a trade-in that we have set up for the Windows XP recorders that you may be using at your sites today. And then in addition to that, all the cameras that Ali talked about, the wide dynamic range, the ones that provide excellent pictures and again are designed specifically for financial institutions. We've got deep pricing discounts on that. And then also the camera, if you recall back to the previous slide, the one that fits in the palm of your hand, we're giving away that camera, one of those free to the first 50 clients who take advantage of this trade-in offer. That's the Nanodome IP camera. And then if you have any questions or want to get additional information about any pricing or any of the stuff we talked about today, you know, please follow up with your Dakota Security account rep. And if you do not know who that is, or maybe you don't have an account rep, we've got it up here on the screen, and it's you can just email us at sales@dakotasecurity.com, and we can definitely help you out and point you in the right direction. So. All right, without further ado, we may have had some people hop in late. So again, the $100 Amazon gift card as advertised. What we'll do is ask a very easy question, which we're going to do now. And if you can, please type the correct answer into the chat portion of the presentation, and the first person to respond will be the winner. So what operating system will no longer be supported that will leave your DVR vulnerable to viruses, spyware, and software attacks? Okay, I got a few answers here. I got to expand my screen to see who asked it. Looks like Mary. Mary, so I have your information in the webinar, Mary, so definitely appreciate everyone who answered and who attended. Congratulations on winning the gift card. And we will go ahead and get that out to you here quickly. But again, thank you everyone for attending. Like as promised, we ended here within the hour and appreciate all your time. Thanks
everyone.